So last week we covered some techniques on how to use the head and so on. And I had no partner, so I was hoping that you could use your imagination. And this week, Mitch has very kindly volunteered his body and services so that we can demonstrate some of the techniques. So first of all, when I talk about using the head, I'm not simply talking about headbutts and things like that. So we covered headbutts, and the simple approach to headbutts is, if you could draw a line here, you headbutt people with this part of your head against that part of their head. A lot of people make the mistake of getting it around the wrong way, and they'll grab someone by the head and go, oh, bang, and, knock themselves out or just get it wrong. So if you want to headbutt people, it's a great weapon, particularly for girls. They just stumble forward and accidentally hit the guy in the head, and it's very much a key part of range 3 because, as we've talked about, the length of the elbow is exactly the same as the length of the head. If I can't hit Mitch with an elbow, I can't reach Mitch with a head. So I need to move forward like that. There's various headbutts in kata. For example, even yansu, the initial movement out of yansu where you grab, pull. That movement there, if you could imagine, you're pulling the gi sharply, which creates this movement in the head. A lot of people think you pull. The only time you pull a head with your hands is when you're pulling it into a knee. You never pull a head with the hands for a headbutt. It's insanity. You'll knock yourself right out. And if you don't knock yourself out, this tells you your skull is thicker than his, so you shouldn't be doing that sort of thing anyway. Okay, but Pinan 4, you come up, grab the head with the hands, drive it into a knee. Yansu, starting motion, you drive out, pull the jacket, denim jacket, leather jacket, gi, and you pull it sharply as your head goes forward, and that causes their head to go like that, and you get them right along the jawline there. So that's a great way to use headbutts. I got to say something too. For weeks and weeks and weeks, I kind of just enjoy doing these live streams. And I forget that I should be trying to encourage people. So I forget to say subscribe, and I forget to say to hit the bell, and I forget to say, oh, there's a Patreon channel out there too, if you're interested. But anyway, sure, subscribe, hit the bell, give us a thumbs up, anything you want. But anyway,
I'm in the Patreon and it's awesome. So yeah, I can confirm.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, I understand that Patreon is, it's people, the kindness of people's hearts, that they're just enjoying what we bring to the channel, and they're going, yeah, you know what, if I was getting that somewhere else, I'd be paying this, or I'd have to pay this. So I really appreciate the Patreon channel and everyone in it. And it's very, very kind of people to do that. Okay, now let's look at, first of all, standing up and how to use the head in some takedowns. So there's 3 takedowns which we looked at and we'll cover today. Remember, the primary objective of a lot of technique is if you can create that oshite hiku or hite oshikomu. That means hiku is the verb to pull, osu or osu is the verb to push. So the concept of hite oshikomu means to pull and push at the same time. You combine those two together, it's infinitely easier to manipulate somebody's balance and body position than, say, just pulling. Us, Mike, Sonny, now you're rubbing it in. It's pouring down. If you could see outside, it's just nothing but clouds. But anyway, I'm glad it's sunny for you, because we went the opposite way for a long time. Okay, so that principle of push, pull, pull, push is really, really valuable. And if you concentrate on doing that in most things that you do when you train, gosh, it makes a difference. You just think, all right, I'm in a certain position here and I'm not getting anywhere. What would happen if I pulled here and pushed there? Okay, and that's the principle we want to look at to start with. So I'll use Mitch. Let's just make sure we get the camera lined up. So we're here like this, all right? The whole idea is if I want to do the single leg, and I don't want to get into the fine details of single leg, but there are certain things that never hurt to know. For a start, I want to mirror my legs. It's really hard to get a single leg if I left foot, right foot, right foot. I want to go left foot and right foot together, okay? Because simply the distance for this hand to travel is so much closer than the distance for that hand to travel, okay? So I'm in here like this. We're coming in. I want to break I want to clear the inside space. I want to control, dominate the airspace, okay? And the fact is, guys will do all these things. If they've got a gi, they're grabbing your gi like nuts. It drives you insane. They just latch on. And if you haven't got skills to break those grips, you can just spend 10 minutes just trying to break that grip. I've had guys go, oh yeah, no, trust me. When you look at the Olympics, judo, the greatest judo players in the world, and they can go a 10-minute match where all they're doing is trying to get control of these grips. It just goes to show how there's a whole science in gripping. And if you can dominate the grips, you can dominate the whole fight. Okay, for us as strikers, you can come in, you can hit, and then clear. See this? Like that. So I want to make sure I clear. If I have this foot forward, he has that foot back, and I want to bring that foot forward, I can clear and pull. See, that brings his leg forward to exactly where I want it. The other way is that I step forward. And if you can just see my feet, we'll watch the feet as well for a sec. Ideally, I want my foot to go to the outside of Mitch's foot. See that? Because then I can even use my knee to break balance and control like that. So that's the first thing I want to do is from this situation, clear the hands and take my foot right near his foot. I've even seen people stand on the foot. That's interesting too. Or if they get to here and they move the back leg away like this, then they can stand on the foot like that. And that really screws with people's footwork in a big way. Okay, so we'll go back. Okay, so in this position, let's just say we've mirrored the feet. So his left foot, my right foot. Okay, I'm going to come in, control the hand, and hit the head on the chest. I don't want to come in and place my head on the chest. I'm not that kind of guy. I want to be a bully. So when I hit, I've got to use my hips. And this is why the pummeling drill becomes so valuable, because you learn to move with your whole body. We underestimate the value of the pummel drill. Okay, so I'm in here, and watch what I do is as I head in, I look at the shoulder and I headbutt the chest. See, like that. Now that penetration alone is enough to kind of throw a lot of people. People that don't spend a lot of time working on single legs and doubles will get caught with that penetration alone. Okay, so it's really important that you work those penetration steps and understand it's got nothing to do with the head and everything to do with the hip movement. Okay, so I'm in this position. There. See how I use my head on the chest? Now the hiki does, hiki oshi, or the push-pull, oshi-hiki. Here's the pull, hands here, and there's the push. See, I push my leg. Now, this is really an easy way to see why the push-pull is more important than the push-push. Because I'm just going to give, we're tight on space, but I have the leg, if I lift it up and I start to push with the head. And Mitch just dances around and we go nowhere fast. Okay, but watch what happens now. I'm just going to drop it a fraction. Watch what happens now when instead of just pushing with the head, I pull with the leg. See, the human body is really good at resisting a downward force. And it's really good at resisting a circular force, but it's really bad at resisting a circular downward force. So you see Mitch in this position, if I lift, he can bounce all day. And I can turn and he can turn all day. I can push him down and he can resist it. But when I pull the arms, this movement here, want to drag his knee towards the ground and push the head. As I turn the circle, it becomes impossible for him to jump and maintain control. So now he's bouncing away. Look what happens if I pull his leg, push the head, and I just turn. He just literally, you can't maintain it. I can turn circles all day, and as long as he's got stamina in his leg, he'll be fine. I can just try and push him down all day, and as if he's stronger than me, he'll be fine. But as soon as I combine the two, a circle and a pull down, the first hop and he falls down. Funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's the first place we use the head in the single. If I just go here, my head is separate to, and I can be here for hours. Okay? But as soon as I engage my head, he just falls down. Mitch is going to punch me in a second. I keep knocking him down to the ground.
And you'll block it and take me down.
So that's the first expression of using the head in the stand-up with the single leg. Now, sometimes the single leg may transfer into a double leg simply because the opponent is able to clear their leg or something like that. It's a drill we work. We come in, if you can imagine this drill, we come in here, he pulls the leg, and I transfer into a double. And the whole thing about the double is a sudden change of angle with a push to the head. You see, if I'm here, let's move these back fraction. If I'm here and he pushes my head away and I come here and I try to lift him up, well, I get nowhere fast. And this is why football players are using, not BJJ guys, they make that mistake sometimes, they're using wrestlers to tighten up the economy of movement in their tackling, because a wrestler will teach them to use parts of their bodies in ways that they're not used to. Okay, so if you can imagine here now, let's go this way. So I'm coming in for the single. We'll turn here again. Watch when Mitch defends a single by pushing my head away. See this? What he does is he destroys the push-pull. He's countering the push, so he pushes my head back. So what I'm going to do is drop my level, come under the armpit now, and use my head in another way. I don't want to drive your head into that, that's all. That was very expensive.
Thanks for your concern.
Okay, so watch, I'm in here, my head is high. He pushes my head. Look, I duck my head under and come back up again. You see this? Now this hand is cutting the knee. All I do is, instead of pushing straight back, I cut the knee and I just walk sideways like a crab. See that? Until Mitch falls down. The whole key is the push with the head. You see? Some people argue that, yeah, but he can catch you in a guillotine. Well, it's really hard to get you in a guillotine when your head's up here and they're falling sideways to the ground. Some people really work hard to develop that skill, so I'm not saying it's impossible, but what I'm saying is, generally speaking, if you're doing it at full speed, you're going single, bangle, they're not going to have a lot of time to hit a guillotine. They'll get a guillotine if I go single here, much easier. See that? But when I go double with my head up, it's a different ballgame. Okay? So the first place we use the head to push is we come in here. See that? And turn around. I'm using my head here to push. The second place is, if he counters that by pushing away, now I'm going to drop my head, come up under, and now I use my head pushing that way. See that? And take them down like that. So they're the first two ways to take someone down by using your head. There's a third one, which people who are on the Budo Blueprint app would have seen the video that I did which showed Randy Couture taking down James Toney. And what that one is if you watch carefully, I'm coming down here. No, stay there. Normally you'd be coming in and you'd fake and then you drop your level. Then you come in low like that. Okay? So level change is a whole science in itself. All right? So I'm here and then suddenly I'm here. See this movement? He throws the right cross at me. Boom. And I just come in like that. Now you see what I'm doing is I'm hooking his heel with the back of my head, with my hand, and I'm pushing the head. This is the movement out of Garyu kata. In the Garyu where you're like that, or if you're young and flexible, you're like this. Okay? That's an unbelievably simple movement. If I push on the outside of the leg, it's easy for him to turn away and collapse the leg and get out. But if I push on the inside of the knee at 45 degrees, it's very effective. It's much harder for him to escape that movement. So the push comes from in. Often you put your head on the inside, which presents a danger of the knee. If I'm going to come down, anyone sharp is just going to go bang. So you always got to have your hand there. The other thing that you can do is have your head on the outside, but push with the shoulder. See, by putting the head here, you push with the head and the knee, the head and the shoulder. By putting the head on the outside, you still push with the head and shoulder, but primarily it's a shoulder doing the work because the drive, the direction is this angle here, 45 degrees on the inside. So it's on this position, we're moving around, he throws that punch at me, I drop my head and in straight away like this. Okay? And if you can practice this enough times that you find the angle very easily, it's just a matter of holding the heel and pushing with the head. I'm going to move right over here to do it, otherwise Mitch is going to damage my dining chair. There like that. Okay, so we start back here now. Right, come a little bit. There like this, we're in close range, he throws the punch, I drop. See this? I can put my hand there or here, just like in Pinan 2, which is interesting. In Pinan 2, you go from 45 degrees, 1, 2. See that movement? Look at this arm. 1, look. That arm comes across. Why are we doing that? Well, it's a perfect way to block that knee coming up into my face. Okay, so we're here, we shape up, I turn in, I come in here, pin down 2, and I just go through with a single leg. So it's very, very much a grappling technique. Okay, so let's look at this once again. I want you to look at the angle that I come in. I drop my weight, penetrate forward with my head on the inside, or penetrate forward with my head on the outside. It makes no difference as long as the drive of direction is on the inside of the knee. And push, pull my hand, push my head, and they fall down. Now, obviously, if they're good, they'll work out ways to get away. But one of the easiest, best things I can think of is to make sure you capture the foot in your hand like that. Because if he wants to move, the feet go to the ground, he moves the hip away, etc. Okay? But if I'm able to control this foot up, it makes his movement much, much harder now. It's much harder for him. It allows me to come around. See that? Bang, bang, bang. And remember, the objective of groundwork for karate is not to finish someone on the ground with them. The objective of groundwork on karate is to get back up from a difficult situation, finish them standing, and run like crazy. Whoosh, Jay. Thanks for coming. Rochelle. Whoosh, I'll go back and read. Rochelle, sorry I'm late. Yeah, unforgivable. I'm out of town. Just finished drop-in training session. Oh, nice. I hope training was good. Harold, Jay, Oh, beautiful, Harold. I hope Shichinohe-san and Vera are well. Very good people. Give them my love, Harold. Thanks. Paul, otsukare-sama to you too. Chrissy's down in coughs. Good to see you, man. Who's that handsome devil you're training with today? Cameron. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
No, he said, don't worry, I'm not that either.
Yeah, don't worry.
Okay.
Chris and Mitch go back 30 years at least. Okay. In fact, Chris Dunn there, and Mitch fought off in the final of the Queensland Kyokushin titles many years ago too. Trained together a lot when they were living together in Uchideshi, right?
That's correct.
Gus, thanks for coming from across the ditch with a name like Winner. Gus, just got a double at work. Good on you. Gus, Hunter, thanks for coming. I'm looking great. Mitch, I don't know if that's for you. See, he's very politically smart. He didn't say.
He said you.
No, he just said you are looking great. Could have been either of us. I listened to an interview with a guy named Ben Askren, amazing wrestler. He was saying one of the favorite effective techniques is a single leg takedown. 100%. Ben Askren is the bomb. And if you had a choice between getting a lesson from him and a lesson from me, take it from him every time, because he's a seriously legit top level wrestler. I think he might have been Division I college in America, which is where all the gold medalists come out of. No, I haven't read the 36 stratagems, but I'll look it up. Okay, so that's looking at some ways to use your head as a fifth limb in the stand-up. The three major simple takedowns where you can use your head. And remember the principle of sticky tape. Remember I was saying when I was moving house, sometimes I'd stick a box with one piece of tape, and by the time it arrived, it was torn open. And sometimes I'd stick it with 20 pieces of tape, and I couldn't open it to save myself. I was there for hours. Okay, so the more sticky tape you have, the better. When we translate that into physical contact, the more contact of your body you have on his body, the better. So if I can connect my head, connect my arms, connect my shoulder, all my body is putting pressure on him as I push, well, that makes a big difference. And that becomes very, very obvious when you go to the ground as well. Okay, and just as a simple illustration, and I'm digressing a little bit. Harold, I've never been, but I'm fairly certain that 自分も絶対琉球行ったら好きになると思います。頑張ってください。自分も沖縄行きたいですね。Okay, let's go. Looking at the ground here. Let's look at something just to illustrate what I mean. So Mitch lies down, head here, feet there. So just watch what I mean as an illustration of sticky tape. My hand is holding his hand down. So get out. Two hands. Get out. Two hands and elbow. It gets harder and harder. The more sticky tape I apply, two hands, elbow, shoulder. So he's got to create space to alleviate the sticky tape. You get what I mean? Now, if I was to go all the way in here, what's called kesagatame, and I'm going to go soft, put my weight on the mat. Remember in kesa, you shouldn't have any weight on the mat. You put the weight on his ribs. But look, same arm, and my sticky tape now is all the way along. Starts in my hand, all the way along. Squeeze my armpit, all the way along. Here like this. Now he tries to get the arm out. Chance. It's really hard. I mean, seriously, it is extremely hard. He can try, and maybe he'll get it out, maybe he won't. But the chances of getting it out, if I reduce the sticky tape now, it just gets it out. So you see my point. The point is to work control on the ground, you increase the volume of sticky tape. And that's where the head comes in as a fifth limb. So once again, lie down, Mitch. Put your head here this time. So let's look at this idea. I'm in this position, which is a common place to find yourself in a grappling situation. Okay? And I want to get control of this arm. Now, quite often, if you're patient, we call this the V-dub, because you see it's like a VW logo. But if you're patient here, eventually what will happen is in his squirming to get out, he'll present his arm in front of your face. He'll want to bring this arm in front of the face to try and create space. So do that. Boom. See, like that? And it makes sense. It's fairly logical. He wants to bring his arm in front of my face, frame up, and get the heck out of there. Okay? But the downside is I do what's called Elvis parts his hair. Just wait here, and then as soon as he presents that arm, look, I get an arm bar. So it's that simple. I'm here like this. I'm just waiting. How easy was that? Look, literally all I did was this. Arm comes over in front. I let him hang himself. Okay? One other thing, I'm being really careful here because this is tight. Did you see my wrist is bent? When you make a fist, look, I'm not going to do anything else in this position except straighten my wrists. And you get the tap because the pressure increases immensely when you've got straight wrists. So remember that whenever you do any locks, straighten it. Even up here, which is where you would never do this what's called udegarami in Japanese. You would never do an udegarami up here. You straighten your wrist, it starts to put pressure on. What would happen sometimes is he would reach over with his other hand and grab it and try and pull it. And this is where the head comes in really well. As he grabs, tries to pull his arm over, okay, if I'm not strong, and there's no way at my age I'm as strong as the average 20, 30 or 40-year-old person, okay? So what I do is I increase my sticky tape. As he grabs, I duck my head. So what I've done now is put my forehead on his arm. So now when he tries to pull, it's really hard because by using my head correctly, I'm not only using my arms and head, I'm employing my entire spinal chain. So my entire body now is sticky tape on his arm. Okay? So that's really, really important. And sometimes I can be here, and if my opponent is much stronger than me and I've done everything, I can simply just put my head on the wrist as well. See, like that? And you'll get the tap a lot easier. Another really interesting technique that I kind of play with sometimes, which catches people by surprise, is this one. So this is when the arm goes up like that and you entangle it. That's called udegarami or arm entanglement. When it goes down, it's called gyaku udegarami or reverse arm entanglement. In BJJ, they call it kimura. Okay, now look, I'm just holding this position, right? And it's kind of bearable, right? Nothing. Watch what happens when I simply do this with my head. It's crazy, right?
It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous how all I'm doing is putting my head on his shoulder and putting pressure down on the shoulder. That alone can make some people tap, okay? In a really like adrenaline pumped street fight, it's not going to make anyone tap. But it'll give you a couple of seconds to readjust. So I'm here like this. What I can do now, if you watch my hands carefully, let's turn around here a little bit. If you watch my hands carefully, normally the kimura is like this. His arm there, my hand goes on top. I come underneath, grab my own wrist, and elevate. Okay? I come to here. Whoa, it's too strong. Okay? So I push down, and watch what I do with my hand. I'm going to come in here and grab the hand with that hand instead. So that's much stronger pulling now, rather than just holding here. I'm pulling. And I add this. Now here's an interesting point about sticky tape. I add my hand there and push, and if he's fairly strong and he works hard to get his arm out there, boom, okay? Watch what happens when I increase the sticky tape by doing nothing more than connecting my elbow to his body. Now he tries to get the arm out, and I'm not even struggling. I'm not even struggling. Mitch is struggling. I'm not even talking funny. Whereas if it's up here, I'm using the same amount of foot and I just can't hold it. So that's another perfect example of how valuable that sticky tape is. Okay, I'm in here, in this position. I drive my head down onto his shoulder, and you get a tap. Crazy, isn't it? I'm in here. I'm increasing the sticky tape here. I can switch my hips. You get the tap. Some people say, well, why doesn't Mitch just push me over? Push me? Well, I'm hurting myself. You're hurting himself. The other thing too is if they are flexible and crazy, well then you can always put your leg over their head like that. Okay. So that's a couple of really nice arm entanglements. The first one using the head as a fifth limb. Okay. I use the head a lot too. If I'm in this position on the ground, and if you do any grappling, let's get back in the middle of the screen. This is the new position that we're working on at the moment. We're coming in from our usual V-dub. We're diving this hand under and transitioning to a north-south choke. Very, very, very effective. It's super effective. But what I'm finding is coming in here and transitioning under here, but not transitioning to the north-south, just staying here. And it becomes really, really difficult for my partner to get out. And if they start to struggle, well, then you just go to north-south. But this is very effective. And one of the things you can do to use the head is if I want to block him, he'd try and pummel his arm back in again, there like that. Okay, so what I can do to block him is I come in, look, I block his arm with my head, see that? So now he tries to pummel in, he can't. The head blocks the arm instead of the arm. And if he's strong, I love this because this hand now can coast and push hard, and I can drive my ribs into his head like that. And it can be really, really unpleasant for the poor bugger underneath. Is that a fair call?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a... So there's a couple more techniques where you can use the head in kind of unusual ways. We're going to put a gi top on now and show you just a couple of things. What's Harold? I'm going to have to visit Okinawa one day. No worries, Craig. Thanks for dropping in anyway. Okay, so they're really useful techniques that you can use using the head. Let's pop the gi on now. It's just, we're not going to put a whole BJJ gi on. I just want to put a gi on to show you some ways where you can use the head when you're choking and so on. Because particularly in the mount, everyone knows that the mount's a great position, but it's also quite common for the guy underneath to be able to get you off. Now, slide down somewhere there with your head there. Okay, so please forgive us, we're just using the gi like this. This is the mount, this is a low mount, this is a high mount. There's lots of different mount positions. Just let's come back. I'm just going to move it. Yep, that's good. Okay, so primarily in the mount, what you want to try and do is have stability. And to be stable, it's like a table with 4 legs, 2 knees, 2 hands. That's a really stable position. If I want to choke, well, then I go to 3, which isn't so bad. Okay, even a 3-legged table will be quite stable. So that's 4. Okay, so I want to show you now how you can use your head when you start to look for a choke. So if I'm choking here, I'm back to 2 points. It's very easy for my opponent to start to screw with my balance. Yeah, he's doing this. So I put my hand down constantly. See that? it's very hard to resist it when I take the 4 points off. Okay, so what you can do is, because this arm is choking, this arm is caught. I've caught it myself. Okay, so that's generally the way he's going to roll me, like this, because I have no post to go there. So what you can do is, as you do this choke, I'm going to move my body weight to here. See that? So now when Mitch tries to bridge me that way, it's much easier for me to keep my balance down here. See that? The next thing I'm going to do is, you can go under here and choke, you can go over, but here, this way is what I find to be the most successful way for me anyway. Everyone's different. Okay, I'll come in here and I'll circle this arm and I'll cross face him with my elbow. See that? And I'll grab the gi. Then, as I squeeze my hands, I take my head to the mat. And when he taps, I simply tripod on my head, escape my hands, and come back up. So that's very good for training because it's much safer for your partner as well. So if I'm here, I want to choke, I get that hand in as deep as I can, pull, 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 try to get my knuckles in a fist on the ground. Why a fist? Because your wrist is straight. If I go like this, it actually takes the pressure off his neck. If I make a fist, the increase in pressure is immediate. Okay? And I'm going to come over here so that he can't easily bridge me to the left. See, like that. Okay? My weight's over here. If my weight was centered and he did that, I'd be falling over. Okay? Hand comes around, and what I can do is even start to put my head on his head. And the other thing I like to do is put my head this side. Because if he wants to bridge that way, he needs to turn his head that way. But if his head's stuck there, so bridge to the left, he can't. Zero chance. Okay, so I can put my head here like this. So now when he tries to bridge, he can only go that way. Sorry.
Right.
Wish I could feel this. Okay, so my hand comes around the big circle, so the back of my tricep now crosses his face, comes in. I don't even have to get the hand in the collar. I just grab the collar here. If he has no gi, I just go underneath. I'll show you how to do a cross choke without a gi in a sec. And then once I have the grip, I take my head to the ground. And pressure on the head allows me to relieve the arms like so. Okay? So that's another way where you can employ the head, this time for balance, because the stability on the mount is very, very tricky. Okay, there's counters to counters and all that sort of thing. Okay, so there are other chokes from the mount, of course. The Ezekiel choke is probably the most common. It's very, very, very effective. You can do Ezekiel from pretty well anywhere. They call it Ezekiel. What it is, it's like this. I'm going to come around here like this and grab my own gi and then bring that arm in front of his head and then straighten the arms. But when you do that on the ground in the mount, it's very effective. Yeah, let's do it. So we're in here. We take our, just come back a bit. Take our 4-point contact. Arm goes under the head this time. Now, because I've killed my own post, I'm going to move my body to the side of my hand. Okay, then watch what I do. Let me go the other side so you can see my hand. Come under the head. The hand that's under just grabs my sleeve. See that? Just grab my sleeve there. And then this hand comes in across his neck. Now, why I like to punch in with this chisel fist, okay? I put that right on the carotid sinus, holding here, and then straighten both arms, just like that. I can even punch him with my fist.
but I like the chisel fist particularly. If you don't want to do that, you feed it all the way through and then straighten the arms like that. You can use your head there too to hold to get his head out of the way as you feed it in. Horrible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not nice. Now, the cross choke and the Ezekiel are generally considered to be gi techniques that you need the gi for. But over time, we've kind of worked out ways where we can do it without the gi. Okay, and this is really interesting. Come back just a fraction. Okay, so for the cross choke without a gi, this works a dream, and it's quite surprising because people don't expect it. First thing I'm going to do is hook my hand under the shoulder. See, like that? That simulates having my hand in the gi. I hook my hand nice and strongly under the shoulder, and I take my arm across. Now, sometimes they tuck their neck in and they make it difficult for you. That's okay. I'm going to put my elbow on the chest and just dig up. You see how you dig the arm up? So I put all my weight on the elbow on the chest, keep this connected, and dig it up. Very unpleasant. Now, you notice his head turns away. This is where the key to doing the no-gi cross choke works. The hand comes around, and now I elbow him in the face and push the face into my own arm and then push down there and get that cross choke by taking the head there. Okay? A little bit harder for me than normal because I have bursitis at the moment. So look, cap here, underneath, come across, hand goes all the way around, and I forcefully push my arm back in, and I take my head to the ground. That's a really neat way to do juji choke, juji gatame, with no gi. With the Ezekiel, remember the Ezekiel, my arm came under, and I grabbed my sleeve and then brought the sleeve in. Well, what we do for the Ezekiel is instead of grabbing the sleeve, I grab my wrist. See, like this, there. So I come in, move my weight to the side so it's not so easy for him to get me off. I like to even push my shoulder into the jaw there. And I grab my own fist. See that? Grab my own fist, make a chisel fist, and drive it into the carotid sinus. 1, 2, 3. Now, Mitch is resisting a fair bit, right?
Doing my best.
He's doing his best, yeah. See, there's a lot of resistance there. This is where we've found it really helps to use the head. So what we do is we take the position, and then I come to this side. And now I use my head to push his head into the technique, and it increases it like 300%.
Yeah, it's like 1,000% worse.
Yeah. So I come over here, take my own wrist, chisel in, and that may not be enough. So I bring my head to this side, and I push my head into his head and pushes it into the chisel. So you can see the other side. I'll go to the opposite side this time. So I come in, take my fist, and what I do is bring my head to this side and push his head into the chisel fist. Okay? So there's some really cool ways to not only choke with a gi, no gi, but also take down and use the head as a fifth limb. Remember, leverage is simply using more and more of your body against less and less of his. So that means if you're employing as much as you can and you're still not getting the success you want, use your head. Not just figuratively either. I mean, really use your head. Oh, you poor bugger. Wife's got dinner on the table. Thanks for coming along. Us, Daniel. Yeah, more push-ups. Any chance of a top 10, 20 clip of a bugger tap, snap or nap? There was for we stand-up Neanderthals. Yeah, I've done kind of that in the app. That's true. It's a good thing, Jed. Ken, nice to see you. Thanks for coming along. Jed, yeah. Look, so what Jed's saying there is, a video of maybe the top 10 or 20 useful techniques for non-grapplers, right? What's your experience? What would you say would be a good approach to that for non-grapplers?
To a grapple. So
deal with the grappling situation.
Oh, understanding the ranges like first. So range 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So okay, this guy's good in range 4 and 5. So I've got to do everything but be in range 4 and 5 to start with.
Yeah. So probably a good thing is don't get stuck there. But Murphy's Law,
of course, you will
get stuck there because that's their specialty. They're really good at making sure you get stuck there.
Yeah, and then it'd be understanding space in particular. Just the fundamental positions, like maybe you can take them down potentially if they're not so great at it.
Yeah. So
double leg.
Yeah. And the way, Austino, thanks for coming, man. So Mitch said a magic word there. He said the fundamental positions. I think the positions are everything, Jed, because no matter what happens in the rush of where you are, there's only a handful of fundamental positions. There's side control, knee ride, mount, back control, turtle up, half guard, full guard, that sort of thing. Okay, so there's pretty well everything that ever happens when they take you from standing up to the ground, you're going to end up in one of those positions. So the easiest and most logical approach then is get used to those fundamental positions and develop a kind of fundamental escape principle. How to use your hips, how to create space, like Mitch said, in each of those positions, because primarily we don't want to hang around on the ground. All we want to do is develop an escape system where no matter what position it is, you work on a fundamental way to create space and get back to your feet and finish the fight on your feet. You don't want to hang around. Even at the best of times, I still don't believe that some grapplers think that the best way to do a street fight is go on the ground. I've spoken to some of the best wrestlers in the world, and they'll tell you the last place they want to go, street fighters on the ground. They'll do what they can to make sure the other guy ends up on the ground, but they're not going to go down with him. And this is the primary difference between karate grappling and non-karate grappling. As Solsai said, and I mentioned last week, Solsai said, in karate, we have ground techniques. We have newaza. The difference between the newaza of karate and the newaza of grappling arts, and the ones that he mentions are Aikido, Judo, and wrestling, are that their objective is to get you on the ground and finish you on the ground. Karate's objective is not to get you on the ground, it's to finish standing up. So if you go to the ground, karate's objective in the groundwork is to get back up again and finish it there. Yes. Working on escapes. Breakdown, pin. Don't worry about pinning, because pinning logically says that you're on top, but you may not end up on top. You go to the ground, you could be on the bottom. So framework is key. Let me just show you, for example, just a couple of really fundamental ideas, and then we'll wrap it up. So I'm underneath Mitch's side control.
Never happens.
Mitch is underestimating himself. He does it to everyone. Okay, so if you have a look at Mitch's side control, his objective can be, depending on what he wants to do, sometimes guys ride the side control very light because their objective is to allow you to move and give you more rope to hang yourself. But generally speaking, most guys will come in and go heavy. You can even hear the change in my voice as Mitch starts to put pressure on. And if he really wants to put pressure with his jaw, you can hear my voice changing where it becomes very difficult. So I need to, you can see, Jed, that I'm in no position to pin anything. But what I am in a position to do is to create framework. So this is my first priority. My first priority is when I'm on the ground, don't be on my back. So I'll start to create frames. So I'll get off my back here. See, I'm already turning on my side. The next thing I'll start to do is alleviate this pressure. So if he's pushing down, I'm simply going to peel the pressure off. Okay, now if his head's tight, it's going to be hard for me to get my arm in. If his head's up, I can get my arm in, and there's another frame that I've created. Once I've got this off and this frame, I can take this arm and go under the hip here. And now I've created an even better frame. So now even if you try to bring that pressure back on, you can see that it's much harder for him to do it. I said that if his head's up, I can get it on. If his head's down, it's much harder to get in. So here's what you do. Don't bridge. Guys make the mistake of trying to bridge to get the arm in. But the problem is he can ride my bridge in this position. So what I like to do is kick my leg straight up in the air, and I'm like doing a reverse stomp kick. And every time I do that, when I start to go down, his body will still be going up. So there's a little bit of separation. So what I'll end up doing is I'll kick up. And after 2 or 3, my arm will be back in, and it's very hard for him to ride that sort of shock. Okay, we're doing it a little slowly there, but in actual fact, like that. And it makes it much harder for him to follow. Then I get my hands here, and then I'm going to start to use my hips. I said footwork, but the hip movement is footwork on the ground. Let's move over back there a little bit. So we're in this situation now. I've found my frame, Jed. Next thing I need to do, I like to actually even get both hands on the inside here. So I'm going to create space and bring both hands here. Why do I do that? Because now, from here, I'm safe until he decides to punch me. Then he punches my lights out, and I wake up in hospital thinking that my groundwork was so effective in the street. What happened? Well, the reality is not. So what I need to do is come in here, get my arms in here. Now, if he tries to punch me, I dominate the inside airspace. So I can go here, and at any time I want, I can come out the back door, break him down, and finish him there like that. Okay? So I think what you said, Jed, is pretty accurate. It's the framework that counts. Like Mitch said, space. So for me, space is my friend. For the guy who's trying to pin, space is the enemy. He wants to destroy my opportunity to create space. I want to create an opportunity to create space. Anyway, thank you very much, Mitch. I really appreciate you coming along.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
It was really nice to have Mitch available. Yes, always try to dominate the inside airspace. Frame, keep creating space. Don't worry about anything else except trying to frame up between you and him. Keep creating that space by moving your hips. Like I said in the book, hip movement is the footwork on the ground. You don't have your feet on when you're on the mat on the ground, so you have to use hip movement. So frame, create space, frame, create space. As soon as you got that space, look, we could go on for hours. Next week we might do a little bit more on that. I'm not too sure. But once you create that space, then you can, a simple philosophy. I'll just finish off with it. Once I create that space, watch, yeah, just on top again, just go a little easy. I'm going to work my shoulders. Look, I've pulled the pressure off. I've come in. I've framed, moved my hips away, and this is the simple way to get up, Jed. I'm going to post my arm. His right shoulder, my right arm. His left shoulder, my left arm. Post my arm and straighten my arm. Now, once I have my arm straight, a straight arm is much stronger than a bent arm. So, and then I come up, create this, and I never take my arm off the shoulder. Okay? If I'm pushing that and he clears that arm away, boom, I come off there, left shoulder, left arm, and I keep that. And I start to come up there like that. If he clears that, well then, as he comes in on me, I'm trying to push and I can't get good grip on the shoulder. Then I'm going to push his head and straight arm once again. Create this frame. So you see I've got one arm there. And I create that pressure on his head. And that's a really, really very simple movement philosophy, but a very practical one if your objective is to get up and get out of there. That stiff arm on the head, stiff arm on the shoulder, stiff arm on the throat, stiff arm anywhere will really, really make a difference. Thank you once again. Yeah, thanks, Mitch. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dino was trained never to go to the ground. Okay, if you end up on the ground, I'm going for the eyes and throat. Yep, that's a fair call, Dino.
if you end up on the ground, go for the eyes and throat. The downside of going for the eyes and the throat is the one who's in control of the balance is the one who has the opportunity to go for the eyes and throat. So if I'm underneath and he goes for my eyes and throat, it's very, very, very easy for me to counter that, to clear that. But if I'm on top and I have gravity as my friend, it's very, very hard for him to stop me from going for the eyes and throat. So I'd say that's a good philosophy, actually. Go for the eyes and throat, but don't stop there. You want to get straight out of there and keep working away. So go for the eyes and throat to create that initial space. Then you start to frame up, because if they're on top, you absolutely have to create space. Thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. That's right on an hour. We've done well today. See you next week, and look forward to that. Mitch,
Thanks.
You. Very hard to do that sort of stuff with one person. Look forward to seeing you. Us. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. What was it? Was it Vitaraj? I'm going to go up and double check. Yes, Varataraj. Varataraj. Thanks, Varataraj. Us. Yeah, good on you, Dino. Thanks for coming along. Harold, everyone. Us.
Us.
See you next week.